Hello and happy New Year's Eve. I decided to just make this message just because it started this morning. And I was taking the puppies out for a walk, and I ran across one of our neighbors this morning, and he was talking about couldn't wait for this year to be over. You know, what a crappy year it was. I know, and I said back to him, yeah, I agree. And he said something to the effect of somebody he was talking to said that, they had thought 2022 was pretty good. And he was like, how in the world can you think that? And I said, well, it must have been the fact that she had a really, really crappy 2021, so 22 made it better. But then I started explaining to him how our year was for 2022. And actually, ours started out with not this year, but last year. And so many of you know all the things that I was dealing with, not me, but my husband was dealing with the multiple amputations. They say due to diabetes, but his diabetes is completely controlled. Doesn't have to take any medicine. He's got perfect A1C. But it turned out that the two big toes on both feet had to be amputated at the same time. So that put that foot, completely off his feet for weeks. And then a few weeks later, then another little blister would start. And next thing you know, we had to have another toe amputated. I say we because, it impacted all of us. Whether it was daily or it was definitely multiple times a week that I was dressing the toes or inspecting them and seeing things that happen or watching it and realizing how fast things turned for the worse. To the point where it was gangrene. It was bad. So this year comes along, and yep, lo and behold, we had to have another toe amputated, I believe somewhere around February, something like that. Then my mom, we talked her into having a colonoscopy done. First one ever. And she had a colonoscopy done. It wasn't long after that she started talking about was having tummy problems. And my mom is a type that sometimes seems to over exaggerate things. So you're trying to guess which one's which. So it was kind of like a, little boy who cried wolf kind of thing sometimes. And you're trying to figure out what's real serious and what's not. But she kept getting worse and worse and worse. Now, mind you, last year with the amputations, but then my hubby ended up developing stage 4 kidney failure, congestive heart failure, um, 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 severe anemia, where he was having iron infusions weekly. Still, for some reason, that's all messed up. They implanted like an optimizer thing in his heart. Um, just a lot of crap. But then that led to, so back to that. Anyways, long story short, July 3rd, she ended up going in the hospital and 2 places in her colon ruptured. It was emergency surgery. To the point where the doctor himself is calling us, going, "Are you here yet?" I'm like, "No, we're on our way." And he's like, "Your mother's in grave danger. You need to get here." And we get there. The doctor's waiting outside her room at the nurse's station, going, "Look, this is what's going on. Inside her stomach is a mess. It's full of feces. We're gonna have to operate. yada, yada, yada. They end up giving her 30% chance of leaving the hospital, of surviving. Didn't think it was going to happen. So that was July 3rd. And wow, I look like crap. But, anyways, so after the surgery, she was in intensive care for, I don't know, probably about 10 days on a ventilator. I mean, it was really, really touch and go there for a while. Again, long story short, she was in there for 5 months. She went in on July 3rd, every day going to the hospital, also every day taking care of her 3 puppies. And then she moved to like a specialty hospital. And from there, she went into like a rehab facility / nursing home. Well, she finally came home on December 8th. And with 2 colonoscopy bags, she lives by herself, mind you, but we're only like 4 minutes from each other. But, basically during those 5 months, she just gave up. She didn't really do much in physical therapy, nothing. So now she comes home with a wheelchair and a walker, 2 colonoscopy bags, having to start all over again. So, you know kind of where it falls. It's been tough. We, during that time when she was in there, was trying to get her house back to livable conditions. And it's been hard. Probably about 2 months ago, Frank had to have half of his foot amputated. Because again, it started with a stupid little blister from buying a new pair of shoes, and within 2 weeks, it had just, well, no, it was longer than that because it was the toes, it was the whole thing. Anyways, that ended up having to be amputated. So, this is when Mom was still in there. And so she comes home. He's still in a walking boot. She comes home on December 8th. And just a little reminder, if you don't remember, I have MS. So, dealing with the chronic pain, the fatigue, the whatever. This was my hubby. You know, we're also raising a now 12-year-old. We adopted our grandson, now our son. We got him when he was 3. He's now 12. He's an amazing young man. But I could sit there and I think, all right, now she comes home. She's got 2 colonoscopy bags. I mean, like the first day she gets home and the thing starts leaking. Nobody trained her anything in the nursing home. Nobody trained me, nothing. I have been watching YouTube videos to try to learn what the heck to do with it. So here I am, that first night, I stayed the night with her the first night. I'm crying, tears are going down my face. She's feeling guilty. And it was just kind of like, all right, we're going to do the best we can. Since then, have been nurses come for an hour at a time, a couple times a week, to change the bag, which usually the bag starts leaking like the night before they're supposed to come. So we get phone calls at 3 o'clock in the morning for Mom. Oh, go over there and changing the stuff. Occupational therapy's coming twice a week. Physical therapy's coming twice a week. We're to the point now, it's kind of like working out. Whereas I go in the morning and then Frank goes in the evening. Because we're over there at least twice a day. Usually at least 2 hours at a time being over there. But it's doing laundry, it's cooking, taking care of the dogs, cleaning the house, cleaning her, helping her with the showers, all this kind of stuff. I mean, and my mom she'll be 80 in March. And every year we've always heard she's always has to have a real Christmas tree. So first we wanted to surprise her and have a tree set up for when she got home. So we took her van. We were going to go get the tree. Well, doggone it, if we didn't find out that the tread was coming off on the tire. Can't do that. Bring it back home. Finally get it jacked up to get the tire off. Now, mind you, Frank had just had the amputation, so he's still walking around in a walking boot on that. But we finally get it off. Go up to get a new tire put on that rim. While we're gone, the daggum van falls off the jack. And so there it's laying in the ground. Took us almost like a week till we got it. So thank goodness Miss Crystal came to our rescue and was able to come out there and change it lickety-split. It's like, seriously. But anyways, we do that. Finally get the tire on. We immediately go and get her a tree. Places aren't just selling trees like they used to anymore. You used to be able to go to the grocery stores and they had them out front. And we ended up finding this one place. They had like just a couple little dinky trees out the front. And inside they had maybe 5 trees. Mom was saying, I want a tree as big as you are, and, blah, blah, blah. And we're thinking, well, the very first tree, the guy stands up, and I measure it to me, it's taller than me. It's taller than Frank. And I look at it, it was a perfectly shaped tree. Like, okay. Now, this is like 2 weeks before Christmas. But yet, that tree, the needles, and to this day, today's Christmas Eve, or New Year's Eve, the needles are hardly falling off on that. I mean, so, yep, we got our tree up, we got our lights up, so Mom got her 79th tree. And I was talking to one of our neighbors this morning that has B&K Nursery, and was telling him Mom's story. Well, he had the cutest little potted juniper tree that he gave to us to give to Mom, which is perfect. So when we take the tree down, she's gonna have that. So if nothing less, she's gonna have her 80th tree because we already got it ahead of time. When the fact that they gave Mom 30% chance of ever surviving this, these holidays sure could have had a whole different thing. But then when I sit and I get myself in the stinking thinking times and stuff like that, and then I look back into the fact of years ago, realizing that God had a plan for this the whole time. I mean, I was diagnosed with MS in 2003. So, almost 20 years ago. Yes, I was in the hospital every few months with, flare-ups. At one point, I was in a wheelchair, electric wheelchair, a walker, cane, you name it. Then that kind of like resolved itself. Then our grandson came into our lives. And, at one point you think, oh, poor me. But then, again, you look at it as he was put into our lives because I would be sitting around feeling sorry for myself all the time because of all the aches and pains that I have. Because unfortunately, my lesions are in my brain and in my spinal cord. So I have to deal with chronic pain. Okay, so there's that issue. Well, then, with my hubby, last year, like I said, that's when the amputation started happening. But just prior to that, he developed neuropathy, where he didn't feel anything in his hands or his feet. And we had to look at that as God going, okay, I can't stop the fact that these are going to happen, but I can give you the neuropathy where you don't feel it. Because, I mean, there were times cleaning things, you're hitting bone, this and that and the other. The average person couldn't have handled that. So God took care of giving him the neuropathy, so he wasn't feeling all that with the amputations. All that time being off of work ended up causing to where they let him go from his job. He had to apply for disability. Of course, that took forever for it to come through, but it did. So now it made it to where he and I are both home. And now with what happened with Mom, we need to both be there because it's just too much for one person to handle. So I have to look at more of the blessings that have been coming along with all these things that are happening. So I've spoken to a couple people that talked about, oh, it's just a terrible year, or a terrible Christmas, or terrible whatever, and shared my story with them. And they're going, holy cow, look at what you're dealing with. And then you still got a pretty good mindset on it. Of course, I get in my stinking thinking, but then I sit and realize somebody else is far more worse off than we are. So it just kind of knocks things back into perspective. And I just felt the need as the new year goes out that I wanted to share this because somebody needs to hear it. That as long as you have the faith that you can get through this stuff, even though you think it's just, and I tell you what, I mean, I've had my own issues as far as now the doctor, I've got sky high blood pressure. I've gotten into the stinking thinking where I'm thinking, okay, I just can't deal with this anymore. I can't. We ended up finding a wonderful doctor who, when Frank lost his job, he lost his insurance. That put him on Medicaid. The doctors wouldn't treat him anymore. So then we were scrambling to find whichever doctor's what. We found this amazing doctor, Dr. Millian, through the Community Health Center in Tavares. I had a follow-up appointment with her the other day, and it just happened to be, unfortunately, was her very last day of being there. Again, I'm losing it, I'm panicking, I'm thinking the worst, but at least we got to see her, say goodbye. Unfortunately, her poor daddy is dealing with the same thing that Frank is. So she's relocating to where her daddy is so she can take care of him. I know God will put us in the right path of a right doctor. And so, again, we get these things, they weigh heavy. We have our bad days. But it just kind of turns out that having faith, God knows what he's doing. And it's really hard sometimes to think that way. Usually it's a hindsight that it comes through. I know this is long. I just felt like somebody needs to hear this somewhere. So, from our family to yours, we have the three of us here. We have my wonderful mama that's able to home to be able to celebrate with us. We're planning on doing fireworks tonight because obviously she went into the hospital July 3rd. We had fireworks ahead of time. And we took and put half of those fireworks up, waiting until she came home to shoot them off with her. She's home, but it's sprinkling tonight. Everybody's got some kind of cough stuff going on, so we're going to wait and do it tomorrow night. Again, there's a reason for that. I don't know why, but there's a reason. But we're still going to look forward to next year, and we're going to have those days where it just vacuums. That's a nice way of saying it sucks. But we'll get through it, and everything happens for a reason. Often we just have to shut up and listen. And that's been my little saying I've said forever. So, from Frank, Uriah, myself, and my mama, we want to wish everybody a happy new year, a safe new year, and we'll talk to you next year. Bye-bye.